Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar session, Choose Friends, hosted by Campus Friends Taiwan. Today's session will bring you all the information about studying for a doctoral degree in France. I'm Angela, I'm your host today. Now I would like to introduce the speakers for today. Our first speaker is Mr. Jérôme BOVE. Please say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, he is the Attaché for Scientific and Academic Cooperation in the French office in Taipei. And secondly, I would like to introduce you Antoinette. Please say hi. Antoinette has just got her doctoral degree last year, and she has been arriving in Taiwan since several days ago. So today she will also share her experience with everyone. And also, please allow me to introduce the organizer of these sessions, the director of Campus Friends, Ms. 曾代表。我们请曾代表跟大家打个招呼，也简短说几句话。
我说哈，大家午安，我是法国教育中心台湾代表。那大家应该都知道，法国教育中心呢，是官方的单位我们不是代办中心。那设立在法国在台协会里面。那如果同学呢要办理法国签证的话呢，也必须要先透过法国教育中心这边面试那这个月呢，法国教育中心特别精心的帮同学规划了4场免费的这个线上活动。那希望可以提供各位关于博班、关于签证、关于理工、设计、艺术学程公正、客观而且最新的资讯。那同时呢，借这个机会呢，回答各位相关的疑问。那再次谢谢各位今天报名参加这场讲座。那么呢，今天大家就把我当成你们的专属翻译那等一下呢，透过系统的问答区可以踊跃的发问那中文、英文、法文提问都可以。好，谢谢，我再把时间交回给主持人。
Okay, 谢谢欣， Thank you very much. Today's rundown will be the session of Mr. Jérôme BOVE and Antoinette. They will introduce the doctorate in France, and then we will have a Q&A session. As Ms. Zhen has said, please note that during the webinar, you could ask questions anytime with the Q&A function, which you can find in the toolbar. So we will collect the questions and let our speakers to answer you during the Q&A session. Now I will give the floor to Mr. BOVE. Jérôme, s'il vous plaît.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Thank you, Campus France, for the invitation. We are really delighted to be with you this afternoon. And today we are going to present a little bit about why it's a good idea to do some research in France. How is the PhD organized, how it's working, what are the specificities over there? And the third part will be how to look for a PhD position in France. So the reason why we want to share a little bit about research in France is that we know that in Taiwan, a lot of people, they don't think of France as a country that is really strong in science, in innovation. But we do have really, really good science. You can see that many Nobel Prizes are French. We are probably the first country in the world in terms of mathematics, and we have 12 Fields medals. Only the USA has that many medals. And so it's a really rich environment with a lot of bright scientists. They are publishing well. And you know, if you want to start a career with a PhD, you will have to publish your work, and it's a country where we can publish really well in terms of paper in peer-reviewed journals, as well as in terms of patents. And we are happy and delighted to have a major activities. Such as the CERN in between Switzerland and France, or the European Space Agency, the Ariane family of rockets, and so on. So scientists from all over the world, including a lot of scientists from Taiwan, do use those facilities, and they are also a factor of collaboration in between the Taiwanese scientists and French and other scientists all over the world. So it's about 50 billion euros per year that are spent in France for research, and altogether it's more than 400,000 of people who are involved, and the public research is about 40% of all of those people, and the private sector is about 60%. You may know in terms of private sectors, companies such as Sanofi, Airbus, L'Oréal, Air Liquide, Schneider Electric. They all have some activities here in Taiwan, and they dedicate quite a lot of money in research, and they also do it in partnerships with the public sector. And the public sector is a bit. We are here also to give you some explanation about that, because we have scientists mainly from the university on one hand, and from big research institutions on the other hand. And most of the time, actually, they do work together in the same labs. I'll come back to that in 30 seconds. And you can see the logo of La French Tech. La French Tech is actually here in Taiwan. They are located in Taipei, in TTA. And the innovation sector, the startup sector, of course, benefits a lot from all the research on the R&D that is done in France, thanks to all those actors. The reason why I explain what is a mixed research unit, UMR, is what I just said, is that the labs, the universities, and the big research institutions, they like to work together. And when you are going to be looking for a PhD position, and Antoinette is going to explain that in a short while, often you will find this word, UMR, Unité Mixte de Recherche. And this explains the fact that the university, and you will have to be registered in a university to get your PhD degree, and the major research institutions, they can be located sometimes in the same facilities, in the same labs, and the researchers from the different institutions can work together. Sometimes it's two different research institutes or universities. It can be 3 or 4. So when you will be looking for information about the work that is done in the lab where you're going to apply, sometimes you can find some information on the university website. Sometimes it's going to be on the research institution website. Actually, to talk about those research institutions, you can see here CNRS. To make it simple, is a bit like Academia Sinica. They are doing research in all the fields. It's quite a big institute. It's more than 30,000 of people, and they are all over the country in France. And they work in all the disciplines, and they're strong in humanities and social sciences, as well as mathematics, physics, and so on. INSERM is if we can compare it to a research institution here, it would be probably NHRI. So it's dedicated to the biomedical and medicine sector. INRAE is, so this is, I think, something like 13,000 of people. INRAE is a research institute in agriculture, agronomy, food industry, and so on. And so we have like that different institutions dedicated to oceans, to space, to IT, and that's those research institutes are also, they have a lot of different locations all over the country. So it's going to be quite often that you will see how they are intricated, and sometimes in the research itself, you will also have you may have also the participation of some of the companies. They can be smaller, much smaller companies. Also, when you will be looking for a PhD position, you will see that they are you will find some some position in different universities, in different engineering school, veterinary school, or like that, dedicated institutes. And now, since about 10, 12 years, what has happened is that a lot of those engineering school and universities and research institutes, they are now working in clusters. And sometimes you may find also different names for one institution, the idea was to little by little to come under one identity, and now all this work is bearing its fruits. And here you can see it's a paper that has been published here in Taiwan a few months back, where they were explaining that one university in the south of Paris now is really well ranked in the international ranking, the Shanghai ranking system. And here in the journal, they compare it to they call it the French MIT. And before all of this organization, actually, the French universities were not really visible in the international ranking system, and now it's getting much better thanks to that. So it's keep that in mind, that the universities and the engineering school and the management schools and so on, they can work in clusters under one unified name now. So now, what about the collaboration in science in between Taiwan and France? Well, first of all, I should say that the research is quite international in France. There is almost 20% of the researchers in France that are not French, and 4 PhD students of 10 are not French, and half of the paper published by the French scientists are published with some other scientists from all over the world. So they are really used to work in an international environment, and in a lot of disciplines, they are really used to work in English. So it's not an issue for a lot of different many sectors. It's not an issue if you want to work only in English, you will find the right ecosystem. And Taiwan and France are working really well together. We here as a French office in Taipei, we discuss a lot with the Ministry of Science and Technology of Taiwan, and we have a lot of partnerships. We work really well together, and we consider that in terms of publication, France is the 6th partner of Taiwan. So what we hope, thanks to your participation today on your future work in France as a PhD student, we hope that you will increase the partnerships. You will be there, starting new collaboration maybe in between France and Taiwan, and we will be delighted to support you. So Antoinette is going to now take over and tell you more exactly about how the PhD is organized and how to apply for it.
Okay, so as you've seen, France has a quite developed and diversified environment, scientific environment. So if you have ever considered doing a PhD, why wouldn't you do it in France? Actually, a lot of students have already chosen France for their studies, as France is considered the 5th country in terms of numbers of foreign students. And if we consider the PhD, among the 70,000 PhD candidates in France, 48% of them are foreign students. So you can be one of them. Do students choose France, as we mentioned it, because of the scientific environment, but also because of the social environment that is quite interesting to live in France. And one detail that has to be taken into consideration is that the university tuition fees are very low. If you compare to other countries which are really attractive for students, we can see that in France, university is really affordable for students. And not only you will pay few money to get registered into the university, but also you will earn money as a PhD student. You are considered in France as a worker. So we have talked about the French scientific environment. We have talked about why it could be interesting why it is interesting to make your PhD in France. But now the real question is, what does it really mean doing your PhD in France? So first, what's a PhD? A PhD means Doctor of Philosophy. It's 3 to 4 years of research that you will conduct in an original scientific topic, which means during those years, you will have to review literature in a specific domain. You will have to conduct your own research and produce your own results on this topic. And then you will have to write and defend your PhD thesis to get the PhD degree. This PhD degree is the highest academic degree, and it is recognized internationally, which means you can be recognized for this degree everywhere in the world. In France, doing a PhD implies several actors. So after registering to your university, you will have to interact during all those years with different entities, different actors. So there is you, of course. There will be the research lab in which you will be working. You will have a PhD supervisor, who is a scientist or a professor also working in this lab. And you will also be interacting with the doctoral school in which you will be registered. I will develop a little bit this part in a few moments. To access your PhD, there are several requirements that you shall achieve. First of all, you need to hold a a master degree or an equivalent, and to have a research experience in the field in which you want to do your PhD. You will need to have a funding for at least 3 years. As I mentioned previously, as a PhD student, you are also a worker, and so you need to get to earn a paid salary. Sorry. In France, usually PhD students earn from 1,300 euros to 1,700 euros. So it's about 42,000 to 55,000 Taiwanese dollars per month, which is a salary that enables to live comfortably and even to spare money if you want to travel to go back to Taiwan once a year, or to discover other parts of the world. So that's really interesting. And of course, you will need to master at least English. French is better if you want to. It's better for daily life, but you can also do your PhD even if you only speak English. All those selection process will involve, of course, your PhD supervisor, and also the doctoral school, because it's this doctoral school that determines all the rules for the registration and for the defense. So what is this doctoral school that I've been talking about since a few slides? In France, when you are doing a PhD, you have to be registered in a doctoral school. The doctoral schools is a regroupment of several scientific labs that usually works in the same field, and those schools will decide on the defense rules they will also organize the trainings and give you the certificates of accomplishment of different trainings. So they are regulating all the rules of your PhD actually. So what is concretely the PhD? Now that you have found your PhD, you have registered, what happens? What I didn't mention is that in France, on the contrary to some other countries, when you apply a PhD, you don't make a proposal of PhD project, of thesis projects. Usually you apply to a project that have already been decided and designed by your PhD supervisor. Indeed, obviously you will have some possibilities after that to decide what to do, but at first the project is already designed, and that will enable you to start really quickly on the experimental part. So of course, at first you will take some time to take charge of the project, which means you can read the literature on the subject. You will have a look of what the lab has already done, what your team has already done on this project, and very quickly you will start the experimental studies that takes all the 3 years of your PhD. And during the third years, you start writing your PhD thesis and some scientific papers in which you present everything you've done, every new knowledge, new scientific knowledge you have produced during those years. Depending on your contract, you will be able to make some to teach some class, and yes, to give some class to younger students. It will depend on the terms of your contract, and also you will have the possibilities, and sometimes you will have to often you will have to do some complementary trainings and to participate to Congress. I will talk a little bit about the complementary trainings right after that. During all those 3 years, you will have each year what we call a PhD follow-up committee, which is a time during which you present the progress of your PhD to other scientists which are not working in your research team, to check if everything is okay, to assess the progress of your work, and to allow you to continue on the following year. And of course, at the end, you will have to defend your PhD during an oral defense in front of a jury with several scientists. What's interesting in doing your PhD in France is that the PhD program is really well supervised, and you will be really well trained. Even if it's only 3 years, actually, you really have the time to learn a lot, to make progress in your training of new things. For instance, usually the PhD supervisors are really present, and you will have regular meetings with them. For instance, if I take my own experience, I used to I defended my PhD last year, and I used to have meetings with my PhD supervisor once a week, sometimes every 2 weeks, but it was really regular, and it enables us to talk about the project, to check that everything is okay, to resolve the issues immediately when there were some, and that was really nice to progress quickly. You will also have the PhD follow-up, as I told, as I mentioned just the slide before. And yes, I precise that it's with scientists that are external from the lab, so it enables you to have an external point of view, to get new ideas, and to be sure that you're not going the wrong direction. There will be also there are also the complementary trainings that are validated by doctoral schools, and they can be of very different types. You can have some technical trainings specifically on your field, but you can also have some trainings to prepare to prepare your career. For instance, prepare your CV, write a cover letter, things like that. There can be also some more scientific trainings, such as reading efficiently a paper, like that. You will also take part to international symposium and collaborate with other teams in the world. To get your PhD degree, the condition will depend on the doctoral school you are registered on. They decide how much publication you should have at the end of your PhD, if you have to take part into seminars or workshops, and how many hours of training you will have to do. And I already mentioned it, you have to write a PhD thesis and to defend it in an oral defense. And you can do it in English. So if you don't speak French, it's not a problem. So now you know everything about what's a PhD, but how do you find it? There are several tools you can find on the internet. And for instance, you can go on the website of Campus France, in which you can see my face now, in which you can select different parameters to do your research, and for instance, you can choose the field, and also decide if you want it in English or not. You can also find a PhD offer by looking directly on the doctoral school's website. So you can find a listing of doctoral schools on the Campus France website, and then directly go on their website, on which you can find the offers. And another way, among others, is to go on the Research Institute website and to use their job offer search tool to find some offers. What I didn't mention is that to find your PhD, you will have to think as a job seeker, not as a student, which means that you have to prepare your resume, you have to apply with a motivation letter, and you have to highlight all the skills that would enable you to apply to do this PhD. And this application can be sent, depending on where you find it, to the doctoral school or the PhD supervisor. And then I will let my coworker Jérôme present you different to present you the different fundings and the different other things on the PhD.
Thank you, Antoinette. Maybe one more thing about we didn't take time, but when you will surf on the website, you will see that when you see PhD position that is open, they give a lot of information about themselves, about the research they want to do, and about how they want to do it. So unless you want to apply for a PhD in social sciences and humanities, you do not write a project proposal because it's all there in what you will read on those websites. If you want to do a PhD in social sciences, humanities, you will propose what you want to do to them. That's what's one main difference. Some of you could be interested in doing a PhD in between the two countries, Taiwan and France, and with two universities. Then you will get the degrees from the two universities. So there are some agreements in between universities, in between Taiwan and France. So that's something that is really interesting. It allows you to spend some time in both the countries with that format or some other formats. And that's something that we really encourage. For that, to find those opportunities, it's through the dialogues with the PhD supervisor that you can set up such collaboration and be able to work with that format. So it's really something really attractive. There are some fundings, and in Taiwan, the Ministry of Education has some dedicated fundings for PhD abroad if the university is super well ranked. And the one that we used earlier as an example, Université Paris-Saclay, is one of them. So there are also some fundings that are different compared to what Antoinette has presented. And the different countries all over the world, they also provide some scholarship for the students so that they do a PhD in other countries, including in France. And the last thing we would like to present is the fact that if you are already doing a PhD in Taiwan, or if you will be doing a PhD in Taiwan, we have a special dedicated scholarship that is called Eiffel, like the Eiffel Tower. So the Eiffel program is quite interesting because it will allow you to come to France for 12 months and get quite an interesting package to do that, which is really comfortable. And the next deadline for that is January 9th of the coming year. But this is already, if you're already enrolled in the PhD program. Otherwise, usually it's about the same date every year. So keep the information is on the Campus France website. So keep an eye on that website if you want to use that. But one thing that is for sure is that we don't have enough applicants from Taiwan. So you don't be shy. Please apply to this program. So I think we'll stop here because we do want to keep some time for to be able to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much, and please send some questions. We'll be delighted to answer them.
Thank you very much, Jérôme. Okay, now we are going to get into the QA session. Before that, I would want to remind you, because I know that some of you has asked questions when you register to this session. So if the questions are belongs to general questions regarding the visa and application process, we will not answer today. So we have a session which is dedicated to the visa process, which is on the 15th October. So I encourage you to register to that session so that you can get the full information. For the questions which are regarding the life in France, for example, the subvention for rental, or if you could bring your family, everything, please, you can call Campus France during their opening time. So now let's start with the questions that are asked. So firstly, Jérôme, I would like to know what will be the French level required to acquire the doctoral degree in France? What would you suggest?
Well, I would say that just for the sake of doing the PhD, it can be all or nothing. If you do want to do a PhD in French literature, you will need to have the highest level possible. But if you want to do a PhD in biology, in engineering, in most of the labs, you can work 100% in English. So it's mainly the level in English that will be important.
Okay.
For the PhD, when you need to write your paper, it's all in English. When you will write your PhD thesis, I think only a small abstract of half a page is still required.
Yes.
So and you don't have to do it yourself. Someone can translate it for you. So it's not required. Of course, now the question is that we do think that France is an excellent country for science, but it's also a really nice country to live in. And you need to enjoy that. You need to enjoy the social life, the cultural life. We will encourage you to not stay amongst Taiwanese people around, and also interact with others. So there, some French will be quite interesting. I suppose in the training of the doctoral schools, you might be able to fit in those 100 hours of training, maybe some French language. So to arrive, you don't need French, but please still learn French just for having a better life.
Having a good life in France.
And here in Taiwan, and
Yeah.
in Taipei, in Kaohsiung, we have the Alliance Française of Taiwan, which is really great for that.
Okay. The second question, what would be the tuition fee and the living expenses to acquire the doctoral degree in France? I think the tuition fee we have already answered, but if you can elaborate.
So you in New Taiwanese dollar, I think it's about 12,000, and the cost of life. The main question is, where are you going to be staying? If it's in Paris, it's more expensive. If it's in a small city, it's much less affordable. So I would say it would be in between 700 to 9,000 euros per month. How much is that in Antoinette?
700 to 900.
Yeah, so 30. Basically, I think 30,000 NTDs will be really safe to have, to enjoy life.
Per month, right?
Per month, yeah, but it can be much less. And most of the students in mathematics, biology, physics, engineering, in those fields, they will be earning 1,300, 1,400. So the people can save money. They can save money. They will be able to come back in Taiwan. So here I'm talking about if you get this kind of funding, and actually it's on the website and the different information that Antoinette has shown. Those are where you can find those fundings, and I think it's probably the strategy that is the most powerful is to apply to those positions, because the labs that secures the money both for the students so that he can have a good life, and for the work that the university or the lab will need to perform the experiments on the whatever, depending of the discipline. But we know that in social sciences, in humanities, those contracts sometimes are not there, and people are allowed to work part-time. So in that case, they can work, but then the consequences is that the PhD is often longer. It's going to be 5, 6, 7 years because it's a part-time work. So it's, but in for example, in chemistry and physics, it's basically 100% of the students who are paid for their research.
Okay. Understand. Thank you very much. The next question, what are the tips if I want to find my instructors, but I am in Taiwan?
Well, probably it depends on the background of the student. If the student has already spent a bit of time in a research environment, then that person can use the different tools, and especially the bibliography, the literature, to find the labs working in doing the kind of research that they want to do. So this is one first thing. The other one is just to use the tools that you have presented, because there is a lot of offers. But the thing is that we need to know that when you look on those websites, most of the time, if you go now, you will not find the right project for you. And anyway, it's always really competitive. So people should look at the different information that has been presented, identify the right doctoral school, identify the right website, and they should come check on those websites almost every week or every 2 weeks to see if there are new positions. And then they contact the PhD advisor, because it's directly in contact with the PhD advisor. And if the applicant is strong, then the PhD advisor will explain everything to those people on how to continue the application process and so on. So people can write, if they don't use those websites, if they identify through the website of the university some labs doing some research, they can send an email saying they want to work with them, and they're really interested and so on. But the thing is that they won't be able to do research if the money is not here to conduct the research.
Okay.
And so the PI, the professor will say, okay, you are really good students, but as of now, I need first to find some money for you, unless the student is bringing his own money with a scholarship coming from elsewhere. So,
Okay.
and we are also here at some point, if we know that the information is quite difficult to understand, the websites sometimes are a bit complicated. That's why we presented the UMR structure, because it's sometimes hard to understand whether it's through the university, the research institutes, both, how it works. So at some point also the students, that's why our email address was there at the beginning. We are not going to find a PhD for them, never. That's their job. But if they don't understand something in the lab, just how it's structured, how it works, we can give them a little bit of personalized help in that sense.
Okay. Well noted. There's another question talking about the so-called convention d'accueil. So the question is, does everyone, no matter in which domain they are sending the application, that they need to sign this document?
No.
So what is it?
The two reasons. First of all, so this document is a document. It's a key document to get a visa as a researcher in general.
Okay.
So in France, we do consider PhD students as researchers. Of course, they are still in training, but they are, at least for visa, classified as researchers because they already hold the master degree. So this is necessary to spend some time in a lab, for example, in a lab in chemistry, in physics, in engineering. And it's also something that will provide them the right status. And in case there is something wrong is happening, they will be they won't have any more trouble because they were legally in France with the right status. So now the students who are coming in France doing a PhD in humanities, social sciences, and so on, most of the time they don't work in a lab per se. They work in a research team, but they are not in a lab. And also, too often they don't have an income provided by the lab for that. So if depending on the fields and depending on the kind of contract that you have, you may have or may not have this convention d'accueil. If you are doing mathematics, physics, biology, engineering, all of those kind of things, it's much better if you have it. And the visa that you will have is also a visa as a scientist, not as a student. So it's a student without a convention d'accueil because of the other reasons will have to go through Campus France and to ask for a student visa to be able to go to France and to study. But we will talk about that in 2 weeks, I suppose, because there is a next seminar on visa.
Yes, so it's more like a visa question than a doctoral question.
Absolutely.
Okay. The next question, there's a question on if they wish to enroll in a PhD they need to earn their master degree or equivalent program in France ahead. Is that true? And how would you judge if the master degree is qualified or not?
Well, the master degree, here we don't have issues with the master degree because France and Taiwan have signed an agreement, and the French universities, they recognize all the Taiwanese universities as so the French universities recognize the master that have been obtained in the Taiwanese universities, and the Taiwanese universities, they recognize the French master.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as it's a master that has been obtained in a Taiwanese university, being a public or private, it doesn't matter, but it's recognized by the Ministry of Education here, then the master is good. So that is, in terms of requirement, the master, usually here we have never seen any issue. Now the other question is about, the discipline. Of course, if you want to do something in mathematics,
Mm-hmm.
you need to have a master in mathematics, because this is obvious.
And then the next question, normally, how many recommendation letters are required for the application to a PhD?
Well, from 0 to 2. From 0 to 2.
Okay, okay.
But
so it's possible that if you don't have any recommendation letters, and there is a possibility that you can have the PhD, you can apply for the PhD.
Yes.
Because you say
I think
zero.
so. I think so,
yeah,
because
0 to 2.
We know that people are still pretty young. They are coming
Yes.
from the master, and also actually it will depend on their past. If they have worked in a lab also for a few years before, and they were students 5 or 10 years back, and they have worked in a lab,
Mm-hmm.
it's different. But you don't need to have you don't need to sign papers. You don't need to have published papers. Because usually at the master, after a master, you have not yet published any papers.
Mm-hmm.
If you have, it's good, but it's not a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of recommendation letter, this is really something that will be asked specifically by the future PhD supervisor, whether she or he wants to have 1, 2, 0. There is no rules. There is no rules at that level.
Well noted.
When it comes to the next step for the postdocs and so on, I think most of the time it's 1 or 2. For the PhD, because people are younger, it's not that,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same way to hire people.
Yeah, okay, got it. And there's also a question asking, can we apply for the doctorate without having the master degree? Is that possible?
To make the answer, to give a quick answer, I would say no. But there are always some exceptions. In France, we have a system where if people have worked for quite some time at a dedicated level,
Mm-hmm.
then there is a process that will allow people to have their work recognized as a master's degree or a bachelor degree or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But this process is something you need to. It's only for people who have worked several years.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that it's possible, and you can do it with a French university, but it's a long process. It takes about 10 months to do it, and you are in a close interaction with some French professor. You have to write some kind of a thesis and defend it. So there is a way, but you need to plan it ahead of time, at least 1 year before.
So briefly speaking, that you need to prove your ability, your knowledge in this field. Okay, got it.
But and actually, when you do that, I should check on that, but it does give you a master level.
So after this process, you would have a master level, so that you can apply for the PhD.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really rare. It's really
it's really rare. Yeah. So following that, since France has different structures of education, for example, like university and les grandes écoles, can we know more about the differences between the two systems in the PhD program?
No, for the PhD program, it doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
It's
So
really
it doesn't.
it's really in the way the training at the bachelor level, at the master level. Myself, I did most of my studies in the university, and I switched to the Grandes Écoles programme only for the PhD, but only because my own supervisor was a professor in that école. Otherwise, I would have just registered the university. There's no difference, and if you have a PhD degree coming from the University X, the University Y, or the École W, it doesn't matter. The doctorate, the PhD has always the same strength, the value is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's your work, it's what you're going to publish. Maybe also who were your PhD juries, these kind of things, more than the name of the university. It doesn't matter much.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Next question is about language ability. What kind of requirement, for example, like GPA grades, GRE, TOEFL, or other materials to judge in general commonly to apply PhD in France?
I think most of the time, just through the discussion with a potential supervisor,
Mm-hmm.
First through email and then over the Visio or over the phone.
Mm-hmm.
If the person can discuss like we are doing now, but even with a bit of even at a lower level, it's enough. Most of the time, I think they don't really ask for specific tests. So people, if they can manage English, if they are quite comfortable, it's quite fluent,
Mm-hmm.
they are good to apply.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it will be really at maybe some doctoral schools will be asking for some dedicated level, or the supervisor may ask for something specific. But the question is, you need to feel sufficiently comfortable to discuss with scientists in English.
Mm-hmm.
And understand right, understand sufficiently well. But this is going to be evaluated by the supervisor himself or herself during the selection process.
Okay. So during the time for the PhD courses, is there any how to say that necessary course that people needs to take, or it depends on the program that they are choosing?
I let Antoinette answer this question.
It depends on the doctoral schools. The doctoral schools determine usually they determine a minimal number of hours of training, and you can choose among a list of different kinds of trainings. I think in some doctoral schools, you have to take one technical training, one non-scientific training, for instance, and in some others, you have totally the choice. In mine, I just had to make the right number, and then I could choose the trainings I wanted, and it was okay as long as I did it and as I had the certificate of achievement.
So those trainings, you need to think of them like a plus. A plus for the next step to be better prepared for your career, or in a way to find to get some knowledge outside your specialty. Maybe if you need some complementarity, for example, you're a biologist and you don't know so much statistics, you can take classes in statistics because your research goes towards that direction. But it's not like if you're basically if you're a physicist, you won't take any classes in physics. It's going to be most of the time it's to prepare you for the next steps of the career.
Okay. So next question is regarding the PhD supervisors. If there is a need, if something happens that they want to change their supervisor, what would be the process?
Well, it's exactly the reason why one of the reasons why it's nice to have a doctoral school. Because if there is something that is going wrong, the doctoral school is here to handle that situation. And the students won't be able in front of that. It's true that in France, often the relationship between the PhD students and the supervisor is quite strong because they interact a lot, and it's good because then it's one of the reasons we are going fast. But if there are some issues, the doctoral school will be here to decide, and probably they might take the decision to dedicate another supervisor. Actually, more and more, what happens is that more and more we have 2 supervisors for 1 PhD student. Sometimes it's justified by the fact that it can be quite an interdisciplinary work, and it's good to have different point of views. But then it's also, if something is not going well with one, at least you have the other one. So, but university and doctoral school will handle the situation with the students.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So as the time flies, we need to wrap up the session. Thank you, Jérôme and Antoinette, for your very clear explanation. And thanks to everyone for your participation. 那我们今天就到这边。我今天呢这边有一个小小的公告，就是我们在法国教育中心的脸书上面有办一个心得分享拿小礼的活动。那这个心得分享呢，会需要大家就是跟你们今天上线来听这个讲座的画面自拍一下。所以我现在一边讲一边给大家一点时间，你们可以趁现在先自拍。那这个小活动呢，总共有3个任务。第一个就是你先自拍，自拍了之后呢，请你贴在你自己的脸书上，然后写下一个你觉得今天的活动最有心得的一个资讯。然后最后呢，因为我们这个活动需要大家参加至少2场以上的讲座，这个系列讲座总共有4场，希望大家可以参加至少2场以上的讲座。那之后呢，你再把这2场讲座或3场讲座的心得截图再贴到那个法国教育中心那的脸书上面，那我们就可以申请把截图寄给我，寄给 Angela， 那你就可以获得这个小礼。好。大家应该都拍好了哈，好哦。我们在聊天室的讯息里面也有这个活动的连结，那麻烦大家可以点进去看一下。然后我们今天的 session 就到这边 ，Thank you everyone, see you next time。10月15号签证的那个场次再见 ，Thank you， 拜拜。
Bye， Thank you，
Thank you。